Ladies and gentlemen, welcome to MTGO Traders. My name is Taryn, and this is Rivals of Ixalan set review for Black. We've done white, we've done blue, let's get on to the color black. But of course, before I get into it, make sure to like the video and subscribe to the channel if you haven't already. We do lots of deck techs, lots of streams, lots of different formats on the channel, and would love for you to check it out. And of course, let's get right into it with Arterial Flow, 3-mana sorcery. Each opponent discards 2 cards. If you control a vampire, each opponent loses 2 life and you gain 2 life. This card is actually quite interesting in Draft and Sealed, as it does have the ability to do a 2-point life gain and swing for your opponent and yourself. That's kind of good if you have a vampire on the battlefield. So if you are in the black-white vampire build, that's quite good. The discard 2 cards is fine. It's just like kind of like Heartless Pillage in Ixalan. However, Heartless Pillage I feel like was a bit better in that the raid trigger gave you a treasure token, whereas this just gives you life gain. I'm not really sure how much the life gain will come into effect for some opponents, but I do think Arterial Flow does have the ability to kind of make sure if you're in a vampire build where you're kind of going up against a bunch of dinosaurs to maybe get the last 2 points of damage against your opponent. So I do like it for that in a particularly powerful vampire build. Otherwise, it's just kind of like a mid to low tier pick in Draft and Sealed, and I don't see this at all seeing play in Standard. Moving on here, we have Canal Monitor. This is a 5-mana 5/3 lizard, and that's it. So, I mean, it's alright. It's going to be a Draft and Sealed card. It's a 5-mana 5/3, so it is going to be a powerful attacker or a powerful card to trade against some more powerful dinosaurs in other colors. It's so weird that this is a lizard. I feel like this card probably should have been a dinosaur, but for some reason it's just not. I mean, it looks like a dinosaur, but okay, fine, it's not. This is decent. Obviously won't see any standard play, but will be a 14th or 15th pick into a creature curve if you're in black and you need just a big bomb to kind of like either end a match or to just trade with a larger dinosaur on your opponent's side of the field. Next up here we have Champion of Dusk, a 5-mana 4/4 rare vampire knight. When Champion of Dusk enters the battlefield, you draw X cards and you lose X life, where X is the number of vampires you control. So in Draft and Sealed, this is a fantastic rare bomb to get into in a pack 1 pick 1 or pack 2 pick 1. This is a great card. I wish this card had flying or some other type of evasion or maybe vigilance or something, but a 5-mana 4/4 is quite good, and on top of that you actually get card draw for how many vampires you have that you control. The card itself doesn't say other vampires, it says vampires you control, so you still get at least 1 card draw with this 5-mana 4/4, and you actually do lose 1 life as well. But if you're in a vampire build, in a black build or a black-white build in Draft, I think Champion of Dusk is fantastic. Where this card will shine, I feel like, will be in a black-white vampire build in Standard, where you can draw up to 5 cards on the curve, thanks to all the 1/1 token producers we actually have in the format. I feel like this card is really going to showcase how good the either Monument vampire deck is going to be, or maybe just a regular, just token producer, black-white vampire deck is going to be. I think this card is really good, and I can't wait to brew around it in Standard. Next up here, we have Dark Inquiry. This is a 3-mana sorcery. Target opponent reveals his or her hand. You choose a non-land card from it. That player discards that card. We have so many discard cards in Standard right now. It's ridiculous. I like this card a lot for Draft and Sealed, just to shut down any kind of non-land removal spell. So, like, a lot of times in Draft and Sealed, we only have 1 or 2 really good removal cards in your deck, and I feel like Dark Inquiry here can help shut that down completely, but I do not think it's probably going to see any kind of play in game 1. Probably just a game 2 sideboard game plan if you're getting into a deck where they have a lot of removal, particularly a lot of burn removal in red, something like that. I don't think Dark Inquiry will see any kind of play in Standard at all, as it is 3 mana, so it's a bit expensive for my taste. It is also a sorcery, so not an instant speed, of course, either. So I think this is only going to be a Draft and Sealed card for us, and it's only going to be good in probably game 2. Moving on here, we have Dead Man's Chest, fantastic name. 2-mana enchantment aura. Enchant creature and opponent controls. When enchant creature dies, exile cards equal to its power from the top of its owner's library. You may cast non-land cards from among them as long as they remain exiled. You may spend the mana as though any mana of any type to cast those spells. This card paired with Gonti and Standard is like you basically just play your opponent's deck, and that's kind of insane. In Draft and Sealed, I feel like this card will be quite good if they have a large bomb that you can actually dig through their deck with. I'm not really too sure about the card itself in the mid to late game. Actually, kind of capturing a big bomb creature is quite good, and then like using a kill spell for it is good. My only problem is, of course, that you have to use a secondary spell to either kill the creature or that creature die in combat. One of the things is whenever you enchant something with Dead Man's Chest on their creature in Draft and Sealed, and you don't draw into removal, you'll want to have them die to a combat kind of maneuver, and I feel like an opponent probably won't want that to happen, depending on what they have in their deck. So Dead Man's Chest could be be a dead card in game 1, so you really want to look forward to that. But I think it could be a fantastic card in game 1 if you have the proper pieces in your hand. So it's kind of one of those cards that it could be great as long as you pour into a lot of removal. It could be terrible if you just play it and just kind of expect your opponent to want their creature to die. So there is hope for this card in Draft and Sealed, but I feel like Standard is the place this card is really going to shine. Moving on from Dead Man's Chest here, we have Dinosaur Hunter. This is like Predator or something right here. It's crazy. I love this hat. It's a 2-mana 2/2 human pirate. Whenever Dinosaur Hunter deals damage to a dinosaur, destroy that creature. This card is fantastic. Basically death touch for dinosaurs, and I think that's fine. I feel like if you're into a black strategy here, a 2-mana bear here is fine, but having the ability to basically just, you know, hose a giant dinosaur or a 6/5 or a 7/7 or whatever dinosaur, I think that's perfectly fine and acceptable for what it's trying to do. It's also a common, so you might see multiples of these while you draft, and if you're getting into a situation where you know your opponent is going to be having a heavy dinosaur tribe strategy, maybe draft into that, or if you see that, you know, all the dinosaurs are kind of getting out of the draft pool, maybe draft into that as well if you're drafting physically. But I think this is probably just a decent 2/2 bear that has the upside of being able to kind of trade with a dinosaur. The bad thing is though, is of course, it's just a 2/2 bear otherwise if it's not against the dinosaur. So it could be a card you want to put into your sideboard, and then when you go up against dinosaurs, you bring it in game 2. Of course, there's really only kind of a fit for Draft and Sealed, and I don't think we'll see much play of this in Standard. Next up, we have Direfleet Poisoner. This is a 2-mana 2/2 human pirate rare with Flash, Death Touch, and when Direfleet Poisoner enters the battlefield, target attacking pirate you control gets +1/+1 and gains Death Touch until end of turn. Again, Direfleet Poisoner, the Rakdos pirate build in Standard is just so powerful right now. There's so many great cards in the set right now that I can just see all over the place, and I feel like this is one of the best ones here because it has Flash, Death Touch, and gives another pirate a pump and Death Touch. So it's a great way to make sure that if they are attacking in and they are going to die, we still have Direfleet Poisoner coming in here and making sure that we actually get a fair trade on a larger creature like a dinosaur or a larger pumped up merfolk, something like that in Draft and Seal. And I think in Standard, this card will definitely see a ton of play as well. So this is a great pick for us. Fantastic rare. Really like it having it on the curve. Just even though it is a 2/2 bear, it's a 2/2 bear with Flash and Death Touch and pumps other pirates. It's just fantastic. Moving on here, we have Dusk Charger. This is a horse, so horse travel maybe? It's a 4-mana 3/3 horse with Ascend, and of course Ascend is if you control 10 or more permanents, you get the city's blessing for the rest of the game. Dusk Charger gets +2/+2 as long as you have the city's blessing. So this is a 4-mana 5/5 possibly if we have Ascend. Again, Ascend is something in Draft and Sealed that I kind of want to like see to believe. It's probably going to happen, you know, hopefully on turn 5 or 6, depending on, you know, what your strategy is. If you have a lot of treasures on the battlefield, all that kind of stuff. I think it's something that will go off more effectively in Standard. So we really have to kind of like, you know, walk into the waters very, you know, kind of wearily and kind of warily, not wearily, warily, and just kind of be aware of what's happening with the Ascend mechanic. I do think this could be a very good card in Draft and Sealed depending on how easy Ascend goes off. If not though, a 4-mana 3/3 is just kind of gravy town. It's just kind of okay. It's not fantastic. It's not bad. It just kind of exists, you know, and if you need a card for the 14th or 15th slot, this is probably going to be it for you. Next up here, we have Dusk Legion Zealot. This is a super good vampire card, by the way. A 2-mana 1/1 vampire soldier. When Dusk Legion Zealot enters the battlefield, you draw a card and you lose 1 life. Card advantage in draft is key and amazing. Being able to lose 1 life is not too bad because really life doesn't really matter at the beginning of the game. If this is a turn 2 play for us, it is just a 2-mana 1/1, which is not great. Being able to draw a card, kind of filter through your deck a little bit is fantastic. So I think this card is actually good enough to see some Standard play as well in some type of vampire build too. So I think Dusk Legion Zealot is a good card to get into in Draft and Sealed. It might even be also useful in Standard. So you really want to look out for that too. Next up here for us, we have Fathom Fleet Border, a 3-mana 3/3 orc pirate. Again, love the art here for this one. When Fathom Fleet Border enters the battlefield, you lose 2 life unless you control another pirate. So a 3-mana 3/3 that can actually lose you life, not terrible, not great. It's a 3-mana 3/3, which is like kind of par for the course, pretty good. I don't like how you can lose a possible 2 life unless you control another pirate. I think that's kind of the bad part about it. It is a common, so you know it is kind of come out of here out of nowhere, and you're going to see it often. So if you are in the pirate or Grixis build or Dimir build of pirates, you're going to see this a lot, and that's fine. And I think it's probably going to be one of those like, you know, 13th, 14th pick slots in draft draft for you. I just don't like how you lose life because this card exists. Like if it was like a 4/4 for 3, I think that'd be something a little bit better, or a 4/3 for 3. I feel like that's why I would like it a little bit more, or that's how I would like it a little bit more. But I think a 3/3 for 3, making us lose 2 life unless we control a pirate is just kind of unfair, honestly. I'm not wild about this card. Of course, we won't see it in standard at all though, but it can fill out a creature curve if you need it to in draft. Next up here we have Forerunner of the Coalition, another Forerunner for us. This is a 3 mana 2/2 human pirate. When Forerunner of the Coalition enters the battlefield, you may search your library for a pirate card, reveal it, then shuffle your library and put that card on top of it, which is awesome for us. Whenever another pirate enters the battlefield under your control, each opponent loses 1 life. So this card for 3 mana, a 3 mana 2/2, which is not bad, not great, not amazing, has the tutor ability for a pirate, which is fantastic in draft, sealed, and even standard, but also has a secondary ability of being able to have our opponent be pinged for 1 life just for playing out our deck. I think in draft and sealed, that's really going to come in handy if they don't have a removal spell for this creature really early in the game. I do think in standard this might be abused really badly. We just got to see what happens, especially because this creature is not a legendary and can be kind of stacked on top of each other. If you see multiples of the Forerunner, you might want to get into it in draft and sealed. That way you can either tutor into a bunch of different pirates into your hand and also have your opponent lose 2 life, 3 life on the turn if they have, if we have 2 Forerunners on the battlefield and play another pirate. I think that's awesome. It's just one of those cards that it has such good potential to be a fantastic card in standard, but it is just a fantastic card overall in draft and sealed. Next up we have Golden Demise. This is a 3 mana sorcery with Ascend. All creatures get -2/-2 into end of turn. If you have the city's blessing instead, only creatures your opponents control get -2/-2 into end of turn. So this is another card that I feel like will probably see more standard play than it will draft and sealed play. However, that's not to say you won't see a lot of draft and sealed play. A 3 mana -2/-2 to the entire board is very good in black. So it's basically a board wipe in black. In draft, of course, it doesn't really hurt a lot of the dinosaur decks out there, but it does hurt like the token producers and any kind of the cheaper creatures on the battlefield from the turn 1 to 3 plays. I think that's pretty fair. But I do think Ascend is going to be a lot harder to hit in draft and sealed than we think. So I think Golden Demise is probably just going to be a more heavy leaned upon standard card instead. But if you are in black really well, because it is double black, I do think pulling into this as an extra removal spell in black is quite good. Next up here we have Grasping Scoundrel, a 1 mana 1/1 pirate. It gets +1/+0 as long as it's attacking. So it's a 2/1 for 1 in black, and that's not bad. Of course, Grasping Scoundrel is not a blocking style creature. It's definitely a creature that wants to be attacking out turn over turn. So it's a creature you definitely want to kind of make sure that you get on turn 1 and just swing out until this card is dead, basically. I think that this card is really good for that. It's definitely a common, so you're going to be pulling into multiples of these, hopefully. And I definitely think it could be a kind of a call card to make sure that you know that you're going to be soundly in pirates going forward throughout the draft. Hopefully in pack 1, maybe in pack 2, but I think this card is a fantastic turn 1 play for you in pirates. In standard, though, I don't really see this card doing a lot of things important there. It really just doesn't have the impact it should have. It is a turn 1 play for us, but we have a lot of great turn 1 and turn 2 plays already, and I feel like Grasping Scoundrel is just going to be a draft card only. Next up here we have Gruesome Fate, another fantastic card, and look at that art, it's so cool. It's a 3 mana sorcery. Each opponent loses 1 life for each creature you control. So each creature you control means not vampire tribal, which is so weird to me because it looks like it should be a vampire tribal card, and that's very strange. I like this card a lot. I think this card could be a really cool way to make sure that if you're up against a dinosaur deck and they're going really wide and you're going really wide, you still have a way to win the match. And for 3 mana, you could actually do 3, 4, maybe even 4, 5 points of damage to your opponent indirectly, and I think that's awesome. One thing I see with this card, though, is there is some slight potential for this card to be very good in standard as well, and maybe a hidden stockpiles, or maybe a mono white, or not a mono white, but a black white vampire build for standard. I think this card might have some like brew ability in that particular situation as well, because it is for each creature you control. So that could be, servos, it could be soldiers, it could be, whatever we need it to be, and for it to be quite good. I think it's probably going to fall short in standard is because it is 3 mana and not just 2 mana, but it could be a great way to kind of like suck the life out of your opponent for the last points of damage that they have. Next up here we have Impale. This is a 4 mana sorcery, destroy target creature. It's simple, it's effective. You're going to use it every single time you see it in draft and sealed if you're in black. Double black does mean you're going to be, soundly into black. So I think it's a card that's going to be definitely pulled highly in the mid to high range for draft and sealed. So if you see Impale and you're in black, you definitely want to pick it up as quickly as possible because it is a just unconditional kill card. Of course, because it's kind of a mana inefficient, you're not going to see this in standard at all, but I would have loved to because the art in this card is fantastic. Next up here we have Masterminds Acquisition. This is a 4 mana sorcery. Choose one, search your library for a card, put that into your hand, then shuffle your library, or choose a card that you own from outside the game and put it into your hand. So this is like a wish card for us. This is really interesting. However, 4 mana tutor cards in standard have always been kind of like bleh, like kind of bad. A wish card is kind of interesting because it does give you the ability to kind of play something that's like not really synergistic with your deck, and I think that's interesting. But I still think this card is probably not going to be great. But I do think in draft and sealed, this card is going to be perfectly okay. Diabolic Tutor in draft and sealed is normally pretty decent because all it's doing is really like thinning our deck to make sure we can get into our big bomb. And I think if we're getting into a big bomb in black or maybe a big bomb in red with a Rakdos style strategy, I think this would be perfectly fine for that. I personally though would feel pretty bad getting into this as my rare in the draft format. Moving on here, we have Mausoleum's Harpy. This is a 5-mana 3/3 Harpy with flying and ascend, and whenever another creature you control dies, if you have the city's blessing, put a +1/+1 counter on Mausoleum Harpy. This has some real potential to be an amazing card for us if we have ascend kind of going off as soon as possible whenever the Harpy comes into play. A 5-mana 3/3 flyer is really not that great because I really want like something probably like a 3/4 or like a 3/5 or a 5 or a 4/3, something like that. But having the ability to have it grow whenever something dies on our side of the field is quite good, and I feel like it has the potential to be something that like you could almost kind of abuse in a standard format if it's possible to. However, in draft and sealed, again, ascend is going to be a very difficult mechanic to kind of wrap my brain around, and I feel like this will probably be a like mid to low pick for you for a like big bomb in your actual pool. Definitely kind of get into this if you know you have a lot of token producers, or you know you have a lot of smaller creatures to like widen your board state so the ascend can go off to be very effective. We really want the ascend to work on this because being a 3/3 flyer is not great, but being a 4/4 flyer, now that's awesome. Moving on here, we have Moments of Craving. This is a 2-mana instant. Target creature gets -2/-2 until end of turn. You gain 2 life. So this is like a disfigure for 1 extra mana. We do gain 2 life, and that's interesting. But I think this is just a fantastic like just kill spell overall for us in the draft and sealed environment. It will not see any kind of standard play, but in drafting and sealed, -2/-2 to a single creature early in the match is a good indicator that you're going to be ahead in the actual outcome of a battle here. Next up here, we have Oathsworn Vampire. Love this art, by the way. It's a 2-mana 2/2 Vampire Knight. Enters the battlefield tapped. You may cast Oathsworn Vampire from your graveyard if you gained life this turn. So this is a card where it actually comes in tapped, but it's a card that has great recursion if we gained life this turn. So it's a great way to kind of bring it back to the back if we need it to be just a 2/2 bear, just to be attacking out, or maybe just a blocker over and over again. I think that card is awesome for doing that. So it's going to be a very high pick for us in draft and sealed if we're in the vampire build, or we just need something to block in black. And I feel like this card might actually see some standard play because it's such a unique card for us and has such great interaction as far as gaining life and doing things like that with the hidden stockpile abilities. Being able to recast it as soon as we gain life is fantastic. Moving on here, we have Pitiless Plunder. This is a 4-mana 1/4 human pirate. Whenever another creature you control dies, create a treasure artifact token with, of course, tap sack this, add 1 mana of any color to your mana pool. A 4-mana 1/4 is kind of par for the course and kind of like bland, but having another creature we control die and creating some treasure does mean we have the ability to kind of ramp for a little bit and create more kind of permanents on the battlefield that are not as heavily interacted with our opponent, meaning that we can get a send off more quickly. I think that's fine. My only problem with this, of course, is that we have to have creatures that we control die instead of just creatures that die. I really think that's kind of unfair to us, honestly. But besides that, I think the card is fine and will probably be picked in like the mid to low tier range unless you really want to try and push that ascend mechanic in draft and sealed. Of course, this won't see any kind of standard play at all, but that's fine. Moving on here, we have Ravenous Chupacabra, a 4-mana 2/2 beast horror. When Ravenous Chupacabra enters the battlefield, destroy target creature an opponent controls. This is probably the best, or one of the best cards in draft and sealed you're probably ever going to see. This is amazing. A 4-mana 2/2 is not great, but being able to come into the battlefield and kill a creature just unconditionally and also have us gain board presence is fantastic. I think in draft and sealed, if you're in black and you see this card, you're going to be well ahead in the matchup. I think in standard, this card won't see any play, but that's definitely okay. I feel like a lot of people are trying to like say this card might be good in a like Godfarer's Gift strategy, and I can kind of see that, but why not just use Noxious Gearhulk at that point? I don't know what the difference would be because you do gain life with that one too, and that creature has menace as well. So just kind of confused in that situation. If someone has an explanation as why people are liking this for a Godfarer's Gift strategy, please put that in the comments below for me too. Would love to hear the case why. But do love this card for a draft and sealed idea. I think this card is fantastic. Moving Moving on here, we have Reaver Ambush. This is a 3-mana instant. Exile target creature with power 3 or less. So this is basically, Vanquish the Weak, which was in the previous set in Ixalan. This is a great card for us. It's always going to be a great card. I love it. It exiles the card instead of actually destroying them, so no graveyard interaction, and that's perfectly fine. The art's really fun, and yeah, I think this card's good. Definitely great for a draft and sealed. Do not use it in standard. Moving on here, we have Recover, which is a great name. It's a 3-mana sorcery. Return target creature card from your graveyard to your hand, draw a card. So this is okay for us. This is going to be a mid to low pick for us, probably a low pick for us in draft and sealed. Being able to draw a card is good, but for 3 mana, being able to get a creature that had just died to a removal spell and being able to draw a card is quite good too. Again, this is a card that's going to stay away from standard for sure, and in draft and sealed. You'll see this card a lot because it does have great viability and flexibility against other decks that have lots of high removal rates. Next up, we have Sadistic Sky Marshal. This art on this card is ridiculous, by the way. This is a 3-mana 2/2 vampire soldier. As an additional cost to Sadistic Sky Marshal, reveal a vampire card from your hand or pay 1. It has flying and lifelink. Man, I wish this card had death touch. So close. So close. Overall, though, this card is perfectly fine. A 3-mana 2/2 bear for flying is not bad, and having lifelink on top is actually quite good too. Wish this card had death touch or vigilance or something else to make it kind of like a cut above the rest, but I think if you're in the vampire strategy, this card is fantastic gravy on top of a bloody cake. Moving on here, we have Amok, Primal Death. I think that's how it's pronounced correctly. It's a 6-mana 6/6 legendary creature, elder dinosaur with death touch. You can pay 1 black, reveal it from your hand, put a prey counter on target creature, activate its ability only during your turn, and when it enters the battlefield, destroy each creature your opponent controls with a prey counter on it. This card in draft is going to be a massive bomb that's just going to completely blow out the entire board state. If they don't have anything to protect their creatures from either getting counters on top of them with hexproof or maybe making them indestructible, then their entire board state is just gone. Because if you can have the 6 mana to pay for this, then you can have the 6 mana to put 6 different counters on your opponent's side of the field to kill all of their creatures. It's just insane. Not to mention this, but it also is a 6/6 death toucher, which means that even though if you have something even more powerful to kill it, it's still going to kill each other as well. So it's such a good card. It's fantastic. I feel like this card might be good in standard. Might see some application. 6 mana is barely making it playable for us in standard. If it was 7 mana, it would have been unplayable. But I think 6 mana is like right there at the cusp where it can be used. I think this card could be very good. It really depends on what the actual meta is going to bring forth from the dinosaur deck. But the dinosaur being in black does mean it opens up a lot of great options for us in the dinosaur strategy. But yeah, I like this card a lot. Really hope to see it in the future in standard, and probably will also die to it a lot in draft and in sealed. Next up here, we have Tomb Robber. This is a 3-mana 1/1 human pirate with menace. Pay 1, discard a card. Tomb Robber Explores. This card is dangerously good in draft, sealed, and probably even standard in a Winding Constrictor strategy. Being able to just pay 1 and discard a card, feeding our graveyard, and also like making sure it can either get us land or making itself a 2/2, or if we have a Winding Constrictor making itself a 3/3 automatically. That is dangerous. I do think in draft and sealed it's a great way to 1, get some land out of your deck and put it into the field, as well as making this a 2/2, 3/3, 4/4, and so on, making it a larger threat. Of course, the biggest hassle with this card in the actual draft and sealed environment is that you are losing a single card every single time you do this. So it is something that if you're drawing into land, you might just want to discard it if you don't need the land, so you can actually try to explore again, make this creature larger. So I like this card in draft and sealed. The problem is that there's a lot of situations where your opponent will wait for you to dump a lot of power into a single card, and then they just have a single removal spell and they just go, it's gone, so I think this card might actually do a lot more work in standard because of the Winding Constrictor play. So we really want to be aware of that. But I do think if you're in a pirate build, then this card might be quite good for you if you wanted to go into draft and sealed with it. Next up here, we have Twilight Prophet. This is a 4-mana 2/4 vampire cleric with flying, ascend, and at the beginning of your upkeep, if you have the city's blessing, reveal the top card of your library and put it into your hand. Each opponent loses X life and you gain X life, where X is that card's converted mana cost. So this card, if you get into it in draft and sealed, if you get into it seriously, like you will probably want to run Ascend as much as humanly possible, because this card is stupid amazing. It's like ridiculous. I don't know how to explain it. Like even in standard, if you get into this card, I feel like if this is going to be into a token-based vampire build, this card is going to be amazing as well. One, it's drawing you an extra card because it's revealing it and putting it into your hand, so you're still getting your draw step on top of that. That's amazing. And on top of that, your opponent is losing life and you're gaining life based on that card's mana cost. So if it's a 4-mana spell, they lose 4 life life, you gain 4 life, you got that card into your hand, and you draw again. This card is stupid good. For a mythic at 4 mana, it's stupid amazing. I love this guy. I love this card. It's amazing. Play it always. It's like, I don't know, if you get into this in your open pack, pack one, pick one, you pick it, and then you're in vampires. It's so good. I love it. Next up here, we have Vampire Revenant, a 4 mana 3/1 vampire spirit with flying. I mean, it's all right. It's not bad. It's going to die immediately to any other blocker, and that's kind of sucky. But, you know, getting up for 3 on turn 5, you know, not terrible, not awful, just kind of so-so. This is one of those cards that's going to fill out your 15th creature slot. I wouldn't be excited to pull into this at all. It's probably going to be a card that might wheel several times until it just gets picked, sadly. So the art's really also really strange, so I'm not really in love with that either. But yeah, not wild on this card in the least. Next up, we have Voracious Hunger, a 3 mana instant with Ascend. Each opponent sacrifices a creature. If you have the city's blessing, instead, each opponent sacrifices half the creatures he or she controls rounded up. So again, if you have Ascend, this card is amazing. If you don't, it's still just a great removal spell for an opponent, especially if they have, you know, that large indestructible dinosaur that's in white. Sacrificing it does mean that it does die instead of getting destroyed. So the indestructible doesn't count, which is fantastic for us. But of course, that would have to be if that's the only creature on their side of the field. So it does mean that our opponent still does have the option of picking a creature, but I do think Voracious Hunger, with Ascend in mind, has the ability to do half a very powerful board state of your opponent's making. So I think that's quite good. I think if this is your rare in your pack one, you probably would take it because it is a really good indicator that you might get into some great black in the future, because there are a lot of black cards that are fantastic overall. But I think that getting out Ascend, even for this card, is kind of like a maybe for sure. I think just the overall ability, like just the base ability, is decent just for 3 mana by itself. I think in standard, this card probably won't see any play at all, though, sadly. And the last black card in this set here, we have Voracious Vampire. This is a fantastic piece of art for us right here. So much blood everywhere. It's a 3 mana 2/2 Vampire Knight with Menace. When Voracious Vampire enters the battlefield, target vampire you controls get +1/+1 and gains Menace until end of turn. Our 3 mana 2/2 is not that fantastic. Having Menace makes it better, and being able to pump another vampire and give it Menace is amazing. I think this is a great card for us at common to be on the curve, to be our turn 3 vampire play, to make sure that our other vampires can get in with attacks on turn 3. I think that's really good. I do like this card a lot, and I will draft into it if it is a vampire deck I am building. In standard, though, this card will not see any play whatsoever. But that is it, guys. That is the full set for black. Tell me what you think, guys. I really like black overall. I think black is probably one of the stronger colors for sure. Really can't wait to draft into vampires personally. There are so many good vampires in this set. I love it. I cannot wait. But of course, guys, like the video if you liked it. Subscribe to the channel if you haven't already. And I will see you guys in the next color. See ya.